Hello, I'm Andrew Smith, the director to Mahjong Cowboy, and this is the behind-the-scenes video to the movie. On screen should be the original film, the storyboards, the script, the scene number, and some extra information which will pop up occasionally. So this film came about because I was part of an org at the time called I Don't Getcha that pitches a batch of movies every month. I was worried that we weren't going to have enough films to fill out roles for 1 month, and so I was like, I need to come up with something to pitch. But all the ideas I had, I wasn't happy with. They were all just kind of like smaller skit stuff. But eventually, this idea just kind of hit my head one day. Just the title, Mahjong Cowboy. I thought it was a fun title. I've been a big fan of DS visual novels for a really long time. I love the look and also just the aesthetics of visual novels, so I wanted to put that in a film. And also, because I don't have the best camera, I thought, oh, if I just dither all the footage, you won't be able to tell that it looks bad. So that's kind of where this idea came from. Kind of like a synthesis of what do I want to do, which is do a cool DS styled split screen movie, and what I can do, which is well, I don't have a nice camera, so how could I make this look cool? So this first scene was shot in the science library at UT. It was just me, the DP, and our actor. We snuck in there because we didn't have permission. Obviously didn't bring lights or a lot of gear, just so we could get in, get out, and get the shots. So this film was very meticulously planned out when it came to the script and the storyboards. If you look at the script, you can kind of see that I just wrote it. I formatted it in the way of this happens, then this happens, then this happens. I also had the storyboards prepared when I did the initial script reading, because even with that, I feel like this film would be very hard to conceptualize without that visual element, because it's so reliant on you knowing that it's going to be in split screen. People were very receptive to it though. They liked the idea and they were super down to do something very weird, which I am very grateful for. All the actors and all the crew were just so down to help and commit to this idea, and it just made me very happy, and I'm very grateful. It's also very funny how many of the actors and crew just happen to be DS visual novel fans, without even me knowing that. Chris, our main actor, is a huge DS head. Ava, who plays Wolf, who's gonna show up in a second, she is. So it was just a very happy accident, and it was very fun realizing that as we worked with each other. I really love this shot where he stumbles back. I think that dissolve, and then of course this close up on the eyes. I think this whole sequence is very fun, and it's kind of it was very fun to storyboard and plan out all these visuals. And there she is. You can probably tell that a lot of this film was just performed on a green screen, which I imagine was pretty challenging for the actors. I definitely tried to work with them beforehand, so we had a good idea of their characters, but I imagine it was maybe a little bit hard to do it without actually being in the environment. But I think the effect looks really cool of them being it feels off, but in a cool way. But yeah, there was lots of little funny issues for acting on a green screen. Every time someone's walking, they're just walking in place, which I think is pretty obvious, but I still think the effect is really cool. It also got some laughs the first time we screened it, which is good because it is really funny. But yeah, the green screen stuff was definitely it was a convenience for me, but also a challenge, especially in the edit. Speaking of the edit, this shot with Ava, she's not actually in that room. That's a study room in my dorm that just has that weird painting of a cowboy hand, and I was I want to put this in my film. I don't know why, but I want to do it. So I got the shots from her perspective, and then figured out the angle, and then went into the room and got those shots later. And then I green screened her over it. One thing I could just not get to work was keying out her hair. For some reason, it was just impossible even with the dithering effects. So I ended up just coloring her gray and making the room red as a stylistic thing, and also just to hide that. I think it looks really cool. So that's another example of coming up with something cool because you have limitations. I love this little moment with the tree. I don't know. Here's the timeline for editing this, by the way. As you can see, it was a lot. I also did all the sound design for the film, which was very fun, actually. Because it was very video gamey, and obviously we're not not like realistic. I was able to go very exaggerated with the sound effects and also hide a lot of my mistakes with just like bit crushing. So it was like a fun exercise of doing a lot with also not having a bunch of pressure to make it perfect. Speaking of sound, though, let's talk about the music in this scene. The music was done by Julian, who is like amazing, and was just elevated this project so much. I learned about him because someone at the screening gave me his contact information. And oh wait, actually, here's how he did this shot. By the way, I think this is very funny. But anyway, yeah. So I heard about him through a friend, and I saw that he made the exact kind of stuff that I would want for this film, and he was down to do it, and it was just like match made in heaven, honestly. This track specifically is just like my favorite. Oh yeah, and this shot is a reference to the film The Brutalist. We kind of took the statue from that film. Yeah, no big deal, whatever. But yeah, Julian was awesome. He actually wrote this track without even like imagining it to be synced up to the footage. It just like happened to work that way, and talk about serendipity, like holy crap. Getting back to what's on screen, I am really happy with this little like calendar transition. I originally didn't know exactly what I was going to put in these boxes, but having the calendar show like the start of when he left and then eventually when he gets back, I feel like it's a really good way of showing the passage of time, and so I'm really happy with how that turned out. This shot too looks really cool. I was originally going to green screen them over like a background, but I feel like them just kind of being in a void looks way cooler, and you can't really tell it's a green screen because you know it's colored. And now we get the little knock at the door. I love the clothes rustle sounds here. Yes, they're awesome. Those was just like me rubbing that coat together in my mom's closet. And now I get to the Mahjong section. I love doing all the Mahjong sound design. It was so satisfying, and like all the clacks of the tiles. I also love that the Mahjong Cowboy shows up exactly halfway into his own film. I wasn't planning for that originally, but I think it's very, very funny. I got into Mahjong through the works of Nobuyoki Fukumoto. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. He does tons of like Mahjong gambling like manga and anime, and I love all his work and like how he's able to use Mahjong as a metaphor for life, and that was something I really wanted to do in this film because I think it's like very interesting. I also feel like this idea is definitely a bit esoteric, and so the scene can definitely work for like laughs as well. I think Chris gave a great performance of just being like, who is this guy? What am I doing here? It's kind of like they're in different movies in the same scene, which I think really works to this scene's favor. This was Luca's first time acting in a serious role, which kind of parallels the Cowboy character in Mulholland Drive, which was a huge influence for this film. He was hilarious, though. Like, there were points where his performance was so funny that I was like having to stop myself from laughing and ruining his take. He was great. This little glove he got was his idea too, which is funny, and it kind of parallels like the glove that Akagi wears in that manga, so that's just kind of like a fun little coincidence. I loved doing all the little like sound effects and like video game cursor stuff for this scene. Also, the voiceover was super fun. I wanted to feel like you were literally like playing a video game, and I feel like this scene more than any other really went for that aesthetic. The little sound effects there too are just like, those were so fun to make. It's a combination of like Mahjong tile clack sounds and then like 50s, 60s like Western gun ricochet sounds, and yeah, no, this was super fun. Fun fact for those who don't play Mahjong, the main character's like starting hand is called 13 Orphans, which is like the best possible starting hand you can get in the game. And I immediately, like, once he gets it, he just like ruins it and throws it away because he has no idea what he's doing. So I thought like for any like Mahjong heads like in the audience, that would be like a very fun and like painful detail. When I first screened it, there was one person just going like, "No, stop," just like under their breath. So I'm glad I did that. This little green tile that Luke is holding right now, so I thought that Mahjong tile's shade of green was different enough from the green screen that it wouldn't be keyed out. Little did I know, I was very dumb and it was keyed out. So for every frame that Mahjong tile is on screen, I had to like manually draw a mask each time. So here's a little like pro tip for anyone who wants to work with green screens. Don't have green things on a green background, or otherwise, what's the point of the green screen? There it is again. Yeah, this was like 3-4 hours just on these two shots getting that tile. But I mean, the effect looks pretty good, so I guess it was worth it. But yeah, you never know what like weird details are gonna take super long to get right in the edit. What else? Oh, Luke's poster for the film turned out great. I love how he incorporated the split screen effect like into the actual poster. He had some other designs which I'll show here because when else am I gonna show them? Which I really like. But yeah, just like great piece of art, really awesome. Unlike this red Mona Lisa that I made like a couple days before the movie because I realized I didn't have a plan for the actual art the character shows him, so I was just like, what looks like something in between like vaporwave and like printing air. That was kind of the inspiration there. And then I love this dither fade right there. It's so nice. But yeah, I think I'm overall pretty happy with how this film turned out. It was definitely a big departure from Monkey Man, which was, like very minimalist, very precise, and then this one's just like, all over the place and overwhelming with all the split screen. There's this book called Understanding Comics. I forget the name of the author, but in it he talks about like the power of sequential art, which is just like art next to another piece of art, like like split screen or in comics or stuff like that. And I feel like doing that, like it creates a different effect than like what you usually do in film, which is cutting from something to the next thing. Being able to actively like choose what you're looking at and having them like be juxtaposed in that way, I feel like you could do some really cool stuff with that, like create meaning with those tools. And if someone hasn't already done it, then I want to see, like, I'm excited to see like if someone does, because I feel like, I don't know, it's very interesting. And as like a big like manga fan, someone who really likes that kind of art, I just thought it's cool to play around with for sure. This window shot is not in the storyboards, but I'm absolutely in love with it. It just like looks super cool on the camera, and I was like, we got to put this in the movie. I guess I haven't really talked about the plot too much, or like the message of the film or all the symbolism stuff, which was super fun, like to come up with. Typically, I honestly just like hearing like what other people have to say, what other people think about the film. I think that's more interesting than like my opinion. But what I will say was like this film was made definitely out of a bit of like this anxiety to like perform, or this feeling of getting overwhelmed when getting into college. I transferred into college. I was at community college freshman year and just spent most of that time in my room like not doing too much fun stuff, so, or not even like working on film, really just like studying and stuff. So like finally getting to college and then like seeing all these opportunities, like there was definitely like an excitement there. There's also like a pressure to perform, and I guess like if this film or this commentary track has a message, it would be like you're not alone in that. But the best thing that I think helped me was just like getting out and making stuff instead of just like worrying about if what I was doing was right. And I also met a lot of great people working on this film. Here's some behind the scenes photos with me and them, and yeah, thanks for listening.
I don't know what's the deal with audio equipment these weird like slider on. Yeah, you could do some fun stuff with long exposures with those light bars.
Don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me.